Good evening. Definitely good to be back this evening. Glad that everyone's able to be here with us. We are continuing to look at the minor prophets, going through those in chronological order, looking at the major lessons that you can find through them. And we have reached Hosea. Now, Hosea is an interesting and different prophet, partly because of the themes that he deals with. And we'll get to that in a minute. But going through the thing that we've been going through, typically his name means salvation. It's actually very similar to Joshua, and it's also the Greek equivalent of Jesus, the same name that we see for our Lord. So his name does mean salvation. And he speaks of salvation to the Israelites, to the nation of Israel. So again, his name is appropriate, as we see with most of the prophets. Written about 750 BC, it's written, again, right in line with that order of what we see. Now, where it differs is Hosea is a prophet to Israel. You will see Judah mentioned as you read through the book, but he lived in Israel. He was from Israel. He is an Israelite. And he is speaking primarily to the nation of Israel. Most of the other minor prophets are directed, except for Jonah, of course, who's writing to Nineveh, or he is a prophet to Nineveh. Most of the minor prophets are writing to Judah, whereas Hosea directly is talking to Israel. He writes to them. It's about Israel, the nation of Israel. And his theme is God is love. And that's a difficult theme to really comprehend given the primary message of the book. But when you consider everything that God is going to communicate through this prophet, what it boils down to is that God loves his children. He loves the nation of Israel. He still loves them despite everything they've done. He still desires for them to return. The outline of the book is quite simple. There's a total of 14 chapters. The first 3 chapters deal with Israel's adultery. And you might go, well, how do you have adultery as a nation? Adultery is, an act committed between a husband and a wife. But God refers to the idolatry of Israel as basically they cheated on him. He was their husband, they were his wife, and they have committed adultery by going after false gods. So Israel's adultery is the primary focus of the first 3 chapters. The next section, chapter 14 through 13, is God describing the ungodliness of Israel and the punishment that awaits them because of their actions. He basically tells them, here's what I charge you with. Here's what you're going to deal with. Here's the punishment that awaits. With chapter 14 ending the book with Israel's conversion and pardon. There's hope. And that is a central theme. I hope you've noticed as we have studied through these prophets, the minor prophets almost always, almost all of them end with this glimpse, this future section of here's the hope that's coming, ultimately being Christ, but also talking about the world coming together and that all nations flowing through Zion, all nations coming to the Lord, the church being established. So let's go ahead and break down the book. Adultery. Now, this is perhaps one of the more difficult sections of the book because a lot of people have trouble with it. You see, in Hosea chapter 1, Hosea is told, I want you to go and marry a woman of adultery. God says, go marry a woman who is going to commit adultery, who's going to cheat on you. And a lot of people struggle with it. They say, well, this is, this can't be what this means. In fact, someone will say, oh, it has to be an allegory. It has to be just a simple parable that Hosea had to make it up, that God would never require this. But the text reads like it's very much a narrative. It's a very much real and powerful story. Some argue, well, she wasn't faithful. She wasn't always unfaithful, that he married her and that she chose to cheat on him later. But that's, again, not what the text reads. The reality here is that God is using Hosea. He's using this prophet to illustrate for us what it feels like. The words that Hosea writes are not only just as God has described them, God has given to him. The emotion that he experiences is very real because he is dealing with the same pain that God deals with. And it makes his prophecy all the more powerful. As we look through the text, we see in chapter 1, verse 2. When the Lord began to speak by Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, "Go take yourself a wife of harlotry and children of harlotry. For the land has committed great harlotry by departing from the Lord." It's very clear. There's no way to sugarcoat it, no way to cover it up. God tells Hosea, you go, find you a wife who is a harlot, and go and you will have children from that harlotry. You're going to deal with that hardship. And we see that's what happens. In chapter 2, verse 2, we're told, "Bring charges against your mother. Bring charges, for she is not my wife, nor am I her husband. Let her put away her harlotries from my sight and her adulteries from between her breasts." So Hosea does exactly what God tells him to do. And as you read through chapter 1 and chapter 2, you see that she does. She goes and she has children out of her harlotry. She does exactly what you would expect a woman of her caliber to do. And Hosea deals with it. In chapter 3, we read, "The Lord said to me, go again, love a woman who is loved by a lover and is committing adultery, just like the love of the Lord for the children of Israel, who look to other gods and love the raisin cakes of the pagans. So I bought her for myself for 15 shekels of silver and 1 1/2 homers of barley. And I said to her, you shall stay with me many days. You shall not play the harlot, nor shall you have a man. So too will I be toward you. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred pillar, without ephod or teraphim. Afterward the children of Israel shall return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. They shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days." So in the end, God says, we'll go back, redeem her. She had obviously been left. She'd gone back into her ways. And God said, go love her again. Go redeem her. Buy her back. And it's, again, an illustration for here's what Israel has done to God. There is nothing more heartbreaking than the shattering of a vow made between a husband and a wife. And when that vow is shattered, it's very difficult to restore that trust. And yet what we're told is God feels that, endures that pain, struggles with it over and over and over throughout Israel's many idolatrous forays. They go after any number of pagan and foreign gods. And he says, this is what you're doing to me. This is what you're making me endure. And he uses Hosea to illustrate that point. The shame that Hosea feels. The pain he feels. So the text then shifts. Illustrating, seeing that, knowing here's what they have, here's what they're dealing with. God says, okay, here's your ungodliness, here's the punishment that awaits you. Because you keep doing it, because you keep going after these false pagan gods. In chapter 4, verse 1, he says, "Hear the word of the Lord, the children of Israel, for the Lord brings a charge against the inhabitants of the land. There is no truth or mercy or knowledge of God in the land." What a horrific charge against them. These are God's people. These are people that were commanded, teach your children, know your children. This is a statute forevermore. These are people that God had given symbols and signs and different things to remind them, to show them, here's what I've done for you. And God says, look, there's no truth, there's no mercy, there's no knowledge of me in the land. That's how far off they had gone. That's how far they had removed themselves from being a bride of God. Verse 3, therefore the land will mourn, and everyone who dwells there will waste away. With the beasts of the field and the birds of the air, even the fish of the sea will be taken away. The coming destruction was going to be so complete that God says everything is going to be destroyed. Everything's going to be taken away. He says even the fish are going to be taken and removed. You can't get any more complete than that. God says, what you've done, this is the result. This is the punishment. You're going to try to get away. In chapter 7, verses 11 through 12, he talks about Ephraim, part of Israel. He says, you're going to try to get away. He says, Ephraim also is like a silly dove without sense. They call to Egypt. They go to Assyria. Wherever they go, I will spread my net on them. I will bring them down like birds of the air. I will chastise them according to what their congregation has heard. He goes, look, you're going to try to get away from this. You're going to try to flee the judgment that's coming. You're going to call to Egypt for help. You're going to run to Assyria. And it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter who you call. I will bring judgment upon you. He refers to them as birds who are scattering. Birds who hear something and they fly in the air. They try to get away. God says, no, I have a net. I'm going to catch all of you. I'm going to bring you down. None shall escape. In chapter 9, verse 17, he says, my God will cast them away because they did not obey him, and they shall be wanderers among the nations. You know, one of the things that's really interesting about Israel is that with the captivity, they go into Assyrian captivity. We know that eventually Judah will be captured by Babylon. And we know that after Israel is captured, that nation falls, another rises and takes them over, and it goes through. And Israel just kind of disappears. They're never restored. There's not a resurgence of Israel like we see with Judah. In fact, the word Jew comes from Judah. Israel is not even a thought by the time of Christ. They are gone. The remnants of Israel have merged with Judah because the nation of Israel is utterly and totally gone. And that's what God is alluding here to. He goes, look, you're never going to be a nation again because of what you have done. Because of the fact that you have rejected me, you have played the harlot over and over and over because you have committed such horrific idolatry and adultery. He goes, you're gone. You're done. I am going to utterly destroy you. I'm utterly going to wipe out the land. And you will be strangers. And Israel does not have a nation anymore. The nation we think of when we talk about Israelites today, we are referring to Judah. We're referring to the two tribes that stayed remotely faithful to God, and the remnant of Israel that merged with them. It's a harsh reality they're facing, isn't it? You know, how would you feel if you were told everything you know is fixing to collapse down, everything you know is fixing to come to an end, it's all going to be taken away from you, and you have no hope of ever being restored? You're gone. Again, in that level of judgment, God says, here's hope. And the hope always points to Christ. The hope always points to the coming church. Those who are faithful of the Lord will find the body of Christ. That's what he always intended. That's what he always planned. Those of Israel who never forsook him, never turned away from him, who strove to be faithful, they would be redeemed, they would be saved. And the same is true of Judah, and the same is true of all the nations. All those people, all those who strove to be faithful would find their way into the church in the generations that followed. But he tells them, look, there is hope. In Hosea chapter 14, verse 1, we read, O Israel, return to the Lord your God, for you have stumbled because of your iniquity. I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for my anger has turned away from him. Verse 4. The God who said that Ephraim's plight was silly, that they were going here, they were going there, he was going to capture them, he was going to lay the land to waste, that even the fish were going to be removed. He says, look, my anger's turned from them. I will love them freely. That is the mercy and the love of God. That is the love. That's why the theme of the book is love. Everything they did, everything that they had done over and over and over against God, God says, look, if you will just return home, I will love you freely. Just return. Just come back. And he says that over and over. In verses 8 through 9, he said, Ephraim shall say, what have I to do any more with idols? Who is wise? Let him understand these things. Who is prudent? Let him know them. For the ways of the Lord are right. The righteous walk in them, but transgressors stumble in them. Hosea ends with this very potent thought. When we turn back to God, when we are righteous, when we understand that the ways of the Lord are right, we will walk with God. There is hope. There is a chance. There is a future. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. 14 chapters. 3 of them revolving around the relationship between Hosea and Gomez. A wife taken out of adultery. A wife who continually commits adultery throughout their marriage. And yet at the end, God tells Hosea one more time, go take her, buy her back, redeem her, love her once more, showing us that God always is willing and able to love us. A multitude of chapters. Chapters 4 through 13. 9 chapters devoted to God telling the Israelites, judgment's coming. This is the punishment that awaits you. This is what I have planned for you. You're not going to be a nation anymore. And ultimately, because of their refusal, their unwillingness to turn from God, that's exactly what happens. That's what we see. That is the state of Israel by the time Christ walks this earth. But one chapter, one ending that indicates clearly and beautifully, if you come home, all is forgiven, all is well, I can and will love you freely. Brother Petroleum, in his course notes on the minor prophets, he says, what is happening in his life, that being Hosea, what is happening in his life is a reflection of what is happening in the world with God and his people. So it has a parallel. But it is told in such a way that Hosea is living what he is preaching. He is living the pain of being married to a woman who is unfaithful. He tries to relate the pain that God feels when Israel becomes unfaithful to him. It is a powerful illustration. It was a powerful illustration for the Israelites, and it is a powerful illustration for us because the reality is we too understand the significance, the sacred bond of marriage. We too understand what it means to be committed. We understand what it means to hold fast to that bond. And yet, how many times do we see people throw away their relationship with God? How often do we see people, no, they're not chasing after the pagan gods, but they're chasing after the idols of today? Whether it is nationalism or gold or any number of other very problematic and equally idolatrous things. God must come first in our lives. And when we choose to put others before Him, when we choose to commit adultery with the idols of today, then we are breaking the heart of God. And the warning that He issues to Israel, He will issue to us as well. We will be done. He will be finished with us. And on the day of judgment, He will tell us, "Depart from me, I never knew you." But the same warning is followed by the same hope. This evening, if you have found yourself having turned away from God, if you have left the bride of Christ, come home and understand that all will be forgiven. That He can and does love freely. Return to the bride. Return to the Lord. Be welcomed home. If you're here this evening and you're not a member of the church, understand that we would love to sit down and study with you. We would love to show you what Christ has done for you, what it means to be a child of His, what it means to put on Christ in baptism. If we can pray for you, if we can help you, if we can encourage you in any way, now's the time as we stand and as we sing.
Why do you wait there, December? What will you tarry?